Hello and welcome to another video. I am taking a flight that I've been looking forward to for months and months since I booked it. Today I'm flying my very first time with Virgin Atlantic on the Queen of the Skies, the 747. Let's go and enjoy the trip. Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. A quick reminder that if you like my videos, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Virgin have their own check-in area here at Manchester Terminal 2, and there's a dedicated kiosk for upper class. Manchester has a pretty bad reputation for its security lines, so it's great that upper class comes with dedicated fast-track security. Having seen the queues in the regular line, I reckon this saved me about 20 minutes. One of the other benefits of upper class is access to the lounge, but the clubhouse at Manchester is being refurbished. Instead, I was given an invite to the Escape Plus lounge. Thankfully for families, the Virgin Holidays V Room is unaffected and still open. Escape is a popular and decent quality lounge brand from the UK, and they operate a few Plus lounges at certain locations. Only Virgin and Qatar Airways passengers can get in here. It's a perfectly acceptable lounge, but doesn't replace the glitz and glamour of the Virgin Clubhouse. It's still a fairly decent place to catch a little bit of respite from the terminal and something to eat or drink before your flight departs. Manchester's amassed an interesting collection of international long-haul routes over the last few years. Singapore Airlines operate to both Houston and Singapore on the same flight number. If you did both of those flights back-to-back, that would be 24 hours of flying. Ethiopian operate a 787 down to Addis Ababa, and Air Canada Rouge operate to Toronto using their 767. The less said about Hainan Airlines the better. They operate to Beijing. Virgin's route here is centered mostly around leisure. This A330 is off to Los Angeles. Sadly, my flight was occurring just a day after Thomas Cook had collapsed, and I remember taking those from JFK back to Manchester only a few months prior to this video. So from the intro where I said this was my first flight with Virgin Atlantic, you're probably wondering why it's taken me so long to fly them. I live in the UK where they're based, and I've been doing trip reports for about 5 years now on YouTube. Well, the answer is I just really haven't got round to it. In the early days when I was mostly focusing on flying British Airways, a flight with Virgin Atlantic meant a lost opportunity to fly British Airways and accrue more status, more Avios, more air miles with them, and increase the level of flying that I was able to do. So I never really gave Virgin a second look. There's a couple of other reasons, which we'll go into later in the video, why I haven't taken Virgin before, but now the time's come for me to take the 747, and I'm really excited. Today's aircraft is nicknamed Forever Young, ironic for an aircraft which is pushing 20 years old. This aircraft is actually in Virgin's older livery. The new one can be seen on a parked 747 on the far side of the airfield with the new billboard lettering. There's nothing quite like flying on the 747, and today I'm privileged enough to be sitting right in the nose. The very front seats get a slight forward view, as you can tell from the curvature of the fuselage. By the way, I don't recommend that you hang around the gate area for too long. The seats are pretty basic, it's stingy, and there's very few charge points available. If you don't already, you should follow me on my other social media, Twitter and Instagram. It's there that I live blog my trips in real time. Virgin let me board a little early to take some great pictures of the cabin. Boarding is through the second door and through the premium economy cabin. There's an additional cabin of this upstairs on the upper deck, which I'll be reviewing next year on the return leg of this ticket. Entering the upper class cabin, you can't help but be struck at the wonderful symmetry of these seats as they point in towards the nose. Upper class is just a business class product, but Virgin have the same number of seats in the nose of the 747, 14, as British Airways do in first class on their 747s. The seats are in a herringbone configuration, which is now well outdated. A big downside to the herringbone configuration is that nearly all of the seats make it very difficult to look out of the window. The front seats are the only exception to this. Because of their unique placement and the curvature of the fuselage, it's quite an easy head turn to get your face right up against the window. As well as that especially privileged feeling of being at the front of the aircraft, the front seats also come with a hidden storage compartment. This particular section is unused and you can just bung all of your stuff in there. These seats don't have a great deal of storage, as we'll find out later. The only real downside to sitting at the very front is that because there isn't a huge amount of privacy in these seats, everyone can see you. Still, it's wonderful to be sat in the nose of the 747 in business class, and after a quick glass of champagne, or two, it was time for us to push back and head for an on-time departure to New York. After a brisk takeoff and having been treated to the wonderful sound of 4 Rolls-Royce engines, we're on our way towards JFK Airport in New York. The 747 is renowned for being a particularly fast aircraft. Today we'll cover the 3,338 miles in just 6 hours and 44 minutes. Let's take a look at the seat. There's a very small storage pocket down on the left-hand side here, where the literature and headphones are kept. There's also a single USB charger and the headphone jack. This little remote control can be used to control the in-flight entertainment screen, which folds out from the console like this. There's quite a lot of glare on this, so I recommend that you close your blinds if you want to watch this TV. You can actually use the recess that the TV comes out from as an extra storage space if you want. The only other storage is to the left-hand side of the seat here, just beyond the armrest. Behind the seat itself is the storage for the duvet and pillow, which you'll see a bit later on. The seats do have up and down recline controls, but cannot be laid completely flat without the assistance of the crew. The reality is these 747s are on the way out. They'll be retired completely by 2021 from Virgin Atlantic's fleet. Therefore, the seats are a little bit worn. This is an old product, and now Virgin are only operating their 747s on certain leisure and seasonal routes. I was soon to find out why Virgin was still a successful airline despite this outdated product. The service and food on board were excellent and outstandingly British too. I was able to pre-order my main course online through the Virgin Atlantic website a few days before departure. I think Virgin know their market very well. They're very popular in the UK, and their food is really geared around that fact. I chose my main and dessert purely off the fact that they were comfort foods for me as a Brit. I have to say that Virgin also have one of the most attractive table presentations that I've seen anywhere in the sky. Lunch was served as we crossed Ireland. I had the cumin coriander to start because it intrigued me. It was quite delicious. The braised beef is what I chose for my main. Now this really is comfort food for us Brits. This was really tasty and also quite stodgy, so it really filled a hole. For dessert, I went for the raspberry melting middle pudding. The pudding was served in condensed milk and was perfectly hot and moist. I really enjoyed this pudding. It absolutely hit the spot. To round it all off, I tried the cheese board and a glass of port. It'll be a very sad day when the 747-400 stops flying. I paid a visit to the lavatory in order to have a look at some of the old fittings in here. It's been a while since I used an airplane toilet that had an actual flush handle. I really enjoyed the food and drink service on board, but the only thing that didn't really hit the spot was this instant coffee. As you can see here, there are still some granules floating in the mix. If the in-flight entertainment doesn't take your fancy, then there's some excellent Wi-Fi available on board. The prices were quite reasonable, and at £20.99 for the full flight, I think that's fairly good value. The strength and quality of the connection was also really good. It didn't drop out once, and I was able to access anything I needed without a hassle. I was even able to track our aircraft on Flight Radar 24. If you want to sleep, the crew will provide a turn-down service, and there's a mattress topper to go over the top of the seat when it's reclined into a bed. I was surprised at just how comfortable the bed was, but if you're over 6 feet tall, I think you may struggle to lie flat in this. It isn't particularly long. Headphones are provided to go with the in-flight entertainment. As I said before, there's a remote to use instead of touching the screen, and there's a good reason for that. This screen is not particularly responsive, and it is rather old. Just use a remote. About an hour before landing into JFK, afternoon tea was served. The real highlight of this is the macarons and eclairs. These were created by French celebrity chef Eric Langlade and were absolutely exquisite. There's also a scone with jam and cream. Virgin Atlantic were one of the first airlines I could name, and that's because when I was a child I remember my grandmother going to New York on one of their aircraft and bringing back an amenity kit. Well, this is today's, and it's pretty nice too, supplied by Herschel. It's a pretty nice bag, and I'm sure that I'll keep it as a souvenir for years to come. Shortly before landing, the crew came round with some landing sweets. I'm not sure I've ever seen these love hearts sold anywhere outside the UK. Fortunately, the weather in New York is way better than it was back in Manchester, and it provides for a spectacular approach into JFK Airport. And so to sum up the flight, I paid a fare of £683 return in premium economy, and I was offered the chance to upgrade using the website for an extra £449 one way. I consider this to be a pretty good deal, and I did only upgrade because I knew that I could select one of the very front seats in the aircraft. Virgin have great service and some great people working for them. I would recommend this experience to anyone. There aren't many chances left to sit right in the nose of a 747. Today's video sponsor, Squarespace, gives you a powerful and beautiful online platform from which to build your website. Squarespace allows you to link your various social media accounts to your website so you can post simultaneously to all accounts. And there's a great traffic overview feature. That means you can track trends in page visits and views to better optimize your posting. And don't just take their word for it. I actually set up my website some months ago using Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/wingingit to get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon with another video.